Hello everyone, my name is Sam Kumari, Technical Director at the Mojaloop Foundation. Really appreciate you joining, especially those of you joining at inconvenient time. Value your attendance and participation in this meeting. Thank you. With that said, let's continue with what's happening on the platform quality and security side for Mojaloop. Simeon, Paul, can you please confirm you can see the screen and hear me?
Yes, we can see your screen and hear you
Yes.
perfectly.
Thank you. So recently, this PI, in the past PI, we were discussing with some members of the community who were on the platform quality and security side and at the Mojaloop Foundation as well, Paul, James, and others. There was a backdoor vulnerability that was discovered, recently came to light in a tar XZ package. And I've provided here a link for those of you interested. You can look at that, an open SSF blog post which talked about the vulnerability in detail. The blog post itself it doesn't go into too much detail, but when we analyzed that a bit more, we came to know that this was just the tip of the iceberg. The work for the foundation has been laid years ago. Like there has been work in the background for the past 3-4 years to introduce something like that, where some open source contributors with malicious intent were constantly making updates, and they've introduced this code which opens the door, or which gives the rise to this backdoor vulnerability as part of one of their contributions, masking them from many other review process. And what we've learned from that context when we researched is that many of the standard processes that are used for quality, like quality gates such as pull request reviews, simple CI checks, and checking by our quality management tools, security tools were bypassed for some commits purposefully, but people did not realize that because these were made by constant users. So that was a big a lesson for us. I mean, in the sense that not that we were following it, but it was good to see the context and understanding. So I'll give now an overview of what we did in light of the tar XZ package. Initially, when we came to know about this, we for this one, we responded quite quickly. We looked at the guidance, what's offered, and looked at the vulnerabilities, studied the context, and we did an internal assessment of our tooling and platform as well. So, are we affected by any of this? Do we use this executable or a package directly in any of our scripts, for example, like infrastructure as code scripts or Helm installs, those kind of things? And we've cleared out our tooling initially. And then we looked into our components and services as well, other things that use this package, and we've addressed by upgrading the packages in some cases, and in some cases providing other forms of mitigation. So using that as a background, we then did a reassessment of our quality and security related gates and processes. And that's a lot of what we did in the last PI as well. It helped us put some things in context and perspective. So some of those things I've listed here, where we did a detailed assessment, some of the components and tooling, and I'll go into detail on some of those in the upcoming slides. So here are some measures we already follow for Mojaloop OSS security open source software assets. There are many of them. I've listed only a few here. For example, we do for every commit that's made and during every release that is made of individual services, image scanning is done. The image is built, license scanning is done to ensure compliance, not just for compliance needs for adopters, but also to ensure that the licenses are compatible with Mojaloop's license. And then addressing of dependable, sorry, that's a word, autocorrect that fixed that. Dependable alerts, and then code QL related alerts as well. GitHub offers that service. And in the past year, we've enabled two-factor authentication for all GitHub users. It was approved by the DA and we enforced it. Now, if you don't have two-factor authentication, you cannot contribute to Mojaloop. Mojaloop is our open source repositories are public. So read access is available for anyone. But if someone wants to log in GitHub and make contributions or have higher privileges, then you need two-factor authentication. We also started using GitHub Secret Scanner. So GitHub offers these services, Code QL and a Secret Scanner. Those were two recent features that we added, not in the last PI, but in the last couple of PIs. Then in this PI, we revisited all of our core repositories, the repositories that that have the code that is used in our releases, or that is used in deploying the Mojaloop platform. And we ensured that the main branches are protected. Previously, we've started renaming some of the primary branches into main, and now ensuring that these are protected as in any commit to these should be is subject to certain conditions, that it is subject to pull request reviews. Commits can be made only by users only through pull requests when they are approved. We made sure the code owners lists are updated. And then we have periodic security testing for vulnerabilities, as we use Sonar Cloud as well. I have not listed it here, but we also looked at learnings from penetration testing done by specific. We haven't done it on the Mojaloop OSS itself, but for implementations that where they did that, we took the learnings and addressed issues for Mojaloop. Just a quick overview of CI/CD pipeline. The picture may seem busy, but what we're looking for is here is showing the various steps involved for any commit or pull request process. You can see the various steps involved and whether they pass or fail. Anyone can go to Circle CI Mojaloop. Your privileges from GitHub are carried over there as well. And you can see the image scanning, license scanning, public audit license, vulnerability check, along with the other functional side of things as well. So for in the Mojaloop release V16.10, these are some of the things we are looking at for the Mojaloop core services. So we've listed alerts from Snake. A lot of this work obviously is building on and continuing the work that has been done in the past by security experts in the PQS workstream. Some of them have led this workstream before, and they're welcome to do it again. But in the absence of such security experts, I'm leading this workstream for this PI. So the Snake alerts were set up by some of the team members, security architects earlier, and we made sure that our core repositories, issues that are reported in our core repositories are addressed. Similarly, depend about alerts. And one of the standards we adopted for this release, which is causing some additional work, is that any alert that is reported as moderate or higher should be addressed before the release is made. As part of this, we are having to actually resolve issues from 3 years ago that were reported. So we are going through all of that so that we have a clean release done, so that maintenance becomes easier moving forward. And also the future releases that use more interesting and key features such as FX, ISO 20022, and the next gen settlement and interscheme, they all have a clean base to start from, in the sense that we address these issues moving forward. So that is one additional step we are adding to our release process. And then I've covered that the ensuring main branches are protected and the collaborator list is up to date, the code owners list, addressing and identifying and addressing any technical debt like closing stale pull requests, any open requests that are not being addressed. We also updated the exceptions that were provided. We have a file that contains the exceptions that are given, removing exceptions unless they have some conditions such as being involved in the documentation of tests that are not part of actual functionality. And we are also continuously monitoring other reporting media, for the lack of a better word, such as like the National Vulnerability Database and GitHub database, to make sure that no critical issues are there. Mojaloop and even non-critical issues that are moderate and high are being addressed regularly. And the framework for this also, a lot of huge updates or significant updates, we've completed that in the last year. This is not part of the platform quality and security workstream as such, but the work done here definitely applies to the platform quality and security. Mojaloop invariance, which was in circulation earlier, is now finally on documentation repo. It was approved by the design authority after much deliberation for months, with the consensus finally achieved there. So that's there. That was actually merged in the last PI 24. And then in the last PI, a couple of other documents were provided as well that have a huge impact. The coordinated vulnerability disclosure. This talks about when a vulnerability is identified in Mojaloop, how do we go about that? The timings involved, how quickly are we expected to communicate? What are the obligations of the reporter? And other details are covered there. Similarly, Mojaloop cybersecurity architecture, thanks to James and Paul, we have that now published as well. And as part of our work stream related activity and release activity, we also have the guidance for work streams who are developing new features. How do we go from incubation, like alpha quality, to release candidate status or release quality? That's published, and there are links to other Mojaloop standards here as well. The goal is that we have defined the framework that helps delivering a code of highest quality that meets requirements for financial grade software. So these were the objectives. We could have discussed this at the beginning, but I wanted to offer that context there. And the reason we revived this in the this work stream, the last PI, which was dormant for a bit, was we wanted to look at many different aspects. Obviously, when we start talking about platform quality and security, there are many aspects involved. But here are some of the things we wanted to cover. So we wanted to look at the security testing of Mojaloop. Within the last two PIs, we've concluded testing from a Scilab team, thanks to them, who done a security assessment on one aspect of Mojaloop. I always say there are many aspects to security in Mojaloop, and one of them is the hub operations side of things, the hub, the finance portal, and the portals that hub operators use. And we were able to get testing on that and an assessment, which was mostly positive, and some recommendations on guidance to be offered for deployment in production, to disable some features, those kind of things. But we were glad to see that Mojaloop follows security best practices, and the review was good in general. We discussed that at the TGB and the DA as well. Then other things we discussed, we also wanted to address the quality issues, because as we discussed initially, some of the quality issues actually act as gates for malicious stopping, malicious intent, and related activities as well. We're also looking at updating our tooling. Some of that is already done. And we want to continue hardening of the Mojaloop core related repositories. One new item that we want to take up is we were really inspired with thanks Miller for pointing it out, and we came to know about Node.js doing a detailed review of the software bill of materials, all the dependencies that are being used, their origin, maintainers, those kind of things, and we've started that work for Mojaloop as well. And so we've explored some tooling here on this particular activity. I'll pass on to one contributor, Shuchita, who'll talk a bit about software bill of materials. She's been doing some work, and as part of our partnership with dedicated, there is a team called Dedicated Mentoring Program 2024 as part of Samagra, and they're doing some work on collaborating and helping DPGs. Or helping DPGs and setting up of DPI as well, digital public good and digital public infrastructure. Shuchita, are you ready?
Yes, thank you.
Please.
So I will give a brief introduction of what an SBOM is. So think of an SBOM as an ingredient list on your favorite recipe. Just as you want to know what goes into the food you eat, you should also know what goes into the software you use and create. An SBOM provides a detailed inventory of all components in a piece of software, including open source, libraries, dependencies, third-party components, package names, package versions, etc. So, why does an SBOM matter? There are many reasons, some of them being transparency. An SBOM gives you visibility into the components that make up the software. Also, for security, knowing what's in the software helps you identify vulnerabilities more quickly. Compliance, being proactive about generating SBOMs, can keep you ahead of regulatory demands. And finally, for maintenance, it helps in managing and maintaining the software. If you know exactly what components are included, updating and maintaining your software becomes a much more straightforward task. So, how to implement an SBOM? Implementing an SBOM is easier than you think. There are several tools available that can automatically generate SBOMs on projects. Tools like Cyclone DX Generator are designed to integrate seamlessly into CI/CD pipelines, making the process as automated and painless as possible. The Cyclone DX generator is an official OWA SBOM tool. It supports a variety of programming languages, including popular ones like C, C++, JavaScript, Java, Python, and also many other languages. It comes with a command line interface that can scan a repository locally or also as a part of CI/CD pipeline, and it generates the SBOM in Cyclone DX format. So we have begun generating SBOMs using Cyclone DX generator. Uh, and the output of this tool is that it gives a SBOM in XML or JSON format. These SBOMs are then converted to CSV for parsing and then subsequently to HTML for better visibility and documentation. The HTML format includes both a detailed and concise tabulation for easier reference. And we implemented this on one repository, Central Ledger. And yeah, we can do it on other repositories like ML API adapter and community tools as well. Future goals for this project will be to generate SBOMs on multiple repositories, automate the process to publish metrics and SBOM maybe monthly once or for every commit. And then also we can run OSS stats, part of Mojaloop community tools locally and start updating dependencies. And finally, we can improve OSS stats to publish automatically. I've also included some links for some reference. Thank you.
Thank you, Shuchita. So as you can see, the goal there is to give us capability. The goals here are manifold, benefits rather, is for reducing the maintenance required. And there are many benefits to this. One is the example we saw at the beginning when we hear about a vulnerability in the media. Knowing the package and having this capacity to quickly see which of our services are affected. So the goal is that we'll have a central place where all the dependencies that are used in the Mojaloop platform are listed, along with these various things. So the license will be listed and their maintenance status when the last release was published, along with their vulnerability status. If we had known like, okay, there is star.exe and there are two services that are using it in a table, then it reduces the maintenance rate and helps with our reaction time to address and mitigate the vulnerability as quickly as possible. Another huge benefit can be compliance as well. Let's say there is a particular RFP or a regulator who wants to look at the licenses that are used. Then having this, it readily provides whatever is required there, where they can look at all the dependencies we use in the platform, what licenses are used, and their compatibility status. We can prove the compatibility easily based on that. And obviously, if there are issues or if there are changes in license, it gives us a chance on the maintenance level to address those quickly. So this work is ongoing, and the goal is to complete that and move on to other aspects of Mojaloop quality metrics and maintenance as well. Thank you, Rishita. We are at the 20-minute mark almost. I'm not checking chat that actively, but if there are questions, I'll just touch on the roadmap for PI25, what we're thinking, what our goals are. And maybe if you have a few minutes, Simeon, we'll open up for questions. So for PQS, there was one activity we wanted to do for quite some time where stress and load testing of Mojaloop is done. And we wanted to see, I think one of the principles of Mojaloop or Mojaloop invariants on the operational side is graceful degradation of service and prioritizing several things, for example, like fulfill requests over new requests. But we held off on that because we wanted to let the performance workstream have their updates and fixes merged in and a release made with that. So now that we have a good release, Mojaloop 16.00 with the performance changes included. The performance changes, I mean, there are more performance changes we'll discuss in the session later today. But we are in a good place now regarding performance and our expectations of it. So we want to do this in the next PI, and we want to finish the software bill of materials activity. We want to continue other things that we're doing as well, hardening of Mojaloop release, addressing issues related by reported by Sonar Cloud, and improving our tooling as well. We also want to look at Open SSF checklist and compliance and getting their badge. We can do a self-assessment, and they have some tools which look at our repositories, assess our repositories, and give us a compliance badge as well, like a silver, bronze, or gold badge. We want to pursue that. And want to do more on the communication side as well, blog posts and guidance to implementers and improving documentation. I've also provided a link to the Slack channel for this. Some of you have actively engaged for this over the last PI. Thank you for that. Hopefully, we'll continue that and build on that for the upcoming PI.